Imagine a robot that can independently roam from room to room in senior living communities. Check the temperature of residents, sanitize the air, and connect residents with families and friends. Does this sound like an episode of a new Netflix sci-fi series? Well, it isn't, and we're going to tell you about it today on our episode of Aging Choices Unfiltered. Hi, I'm Terri Sullivan, the co-founder of Aging Choices.
And I'm Brenda Limone. We have got a great show this week as we put the spotlight on an emerging technology in the senior living space.
Yeah, this is kind of fun, Brenda. You know, being in the technology space in senior living for over 13 years and selling, innovative technologies into senior living, it's really fun to see where this is going. And on a kind of a solemn note, with COVID-19, what's really interesting about COVID-19 is I think as a whole, the industry will be pushed 10 years forward into leveraging technology to help with their residents, to help with their care, to help with communication, whether it's to families or to residents, to help with employees. I think we're going to see a massive jump in technology usage by senior living communities. Would you agree, Bren?
We are already seeing it in the industry of just, different protocols being put in using technology, especially video technology. So absolutely. And I'm very excited personally about this episode, and you'll find out why.
All right. So our guest today is Brian McQuaid, Chief Technology Officer with Connected Living. And we have a special connection to Brian McQuaid. And say hello, Brian. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Terri and Brenda. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So in full disclosure for our audience, Brenda and I have a special connection to Brian and, of course, Connected Living. So Brian is actually my cousin. His father, Christopher McQuaid, was an amazing man, and he is my uncle, my mother's brother. And Brenda?
And Chris McQuaid was one of my best friends growing up since first grade. So we go way back with Brian's dad and Brian, and we're all worked together at Connected Living. So,
yep. And Brenda and I were
great to have you here, Brian.
Yeah, we love having you here. It's fantastic. And that little baby of yours is crazy cute. I can't stand it.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, Brian, let's get started. So can you tell us the mission of Connected Living?
Yeah, so Connected Living's mission, for as long as I can remember, has been to be a global leader in providing personalized and purposeful technology for an aging population. And what is an aging population to us? That could be a senior in a senior living community, could be a senior aging in place, and really anyone who comes in contact, whether that's a community, the administrators, families, different generations. Everyone's connected in our mindset, and our ability to bring those circles together is what we do. And we do that through three main pillars: connecting, protecting, and engaging. We want to make sure that we can connect, especially during the pandemic, right? How do we make sure seniors are socially connected, whether that's through conversation, through news, through information? We need to provide that connection. Protecting. How do we make sure that, given some of the protocols that are coming out in the industry, what can a technology company like Connected Living do, and others, to help support the needs of safety? And then engagement. We need to be able to make sure that we package engagement programming with our technology so that there's a positive and purposeful experience for anyone involved. So it's an interesting time to be where we're at, given the COVID-19 pandemic, but our mission is in full force right now.
And probably needed more than ever.
Yes.
So congratulations. That's awesome. At the top of the show, I briefly described the capabilities of Temi, the Temi robot. Can you give the listeners more detail about the Temi robot and how it works?
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about this because it comes up often, and I almost sometimes take a step back to not just what is Temi, but what is a robot? And I do that because most consumers have never seen a robot face to face. You see it on the news, you see it, in Amazon warehouses, you see it in sci-fi movies, right? And it can be challenging because at the end of the day, a robot is no different than any other product in any other industry, in the sense that, take a printer. I have a printer at home. Companies have printers. Staples has printers. They're all different sizes and different shapes, and the same is for a robot. So what we try and do, and what I try and do, is help consumers find a balance between expectation on what a robot can do, functionality, and price. Because somewhere in there you'll find what you're looking for. And it's interesting when you talk about robots in different parts of the world, the initial thoughts from consumers are different. And interestingly, here in the US, the first thing you often hear is, will it vacuum? And people do that because they're so familiar with the Roomba and other vacuums that really focus on the floors. So it's just interesting how people in different parts of the world with different experiences think about what a robot can do. But from a Terri experience, Terri is a 3-foot robot. It's under 30 pounds, and it's truly one of the world's first, truly mobile, intelligent personal robots. So it allows you to be at the center of technology, but also lets you consume it in a way that is both heads up and hands free. So, it is around you in your home, in a community, in a residence, home within a senior living community, and it can really be anywhere. And it does a number of different things. So first of all, it is loaded with different AI opportunities and over 12 sensors and cameras to help it become autonomous in its movement. So similar to a vacuum, Terri learns your locations. So I have one here at home. Terri now knows where my front door is, my garage door, and the blue chair that I sit at when I watch TV at night. And Terri can navigate between those locations and find obstacles. So I'm sure we'll talk about use case down the line here, but that autonomous nature of learning is significant. It also comes in with built-in video. So how are we able to video chat the people that are important to us? Terri is also one of the only robots that is fully Alexa enabled. So versus bringing something that is its own personal assistance AI, we can leverage and harness great things that are already out there. A lot of people are comfortable with Alexa, and it allows you to do things like control things in your homes, smart devices, your music, your preferences, entertainment options. So those all together are key things. And then fourth, as a technology company, what's unique is that we have the ability to develop on top of the platform. So with many robots, it's kind of you see is what you get. But since Terri is Android based, companies like Connected Living or other development groups can work with clients, can work with the industry and build things that can help make Terri more useful for particular use cases.
It's like a 3-foot iPhone or an Android phone, I should say.
Yeah. Now, actually, I would love to understand too, like what are the real life applications in senior living? How is this being used? And are people afraid of it, or is it user friendly? And how are senior living providers using the robot?
Yeah, Terri is interesting, and again, robots come in all different shapes and sizes. I'm sure you see the ones in the Amazon warehouses where they look like armored guards and they have arms and legs and they jump up and down, right?
Oh, yeah. My son actually designs them. That's what he does. Yeah. Robotic arms. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but this is a very friendly looking, modestly, height. It doesn't have arms or legs, nice tone. But I think one thing that Connected Living has seen is that even introducing new technologies provides us a new kind of peak of interest for a senior. And even if that's as far as you go, that little peak can make a difference in how they think about technology, what options are out there, and things of that nature. But in terms of actual use case that Terri is currently being used for, the first is just very simply voice engagement. As a technology group, we have a duty of putting out different types of technology on different platforms, but we run into challenges in the aging space due to dexterity issues, due to vision issues. So voice is a very powerful way of being able to pretty much interact how you would like to do by your voice. So the fact that Terri is built in with voice in Alexa allows users to interact with their preferences, to control their house, to call their family, to send the robot to a different location, to play their music. So there's a lot just basic out of the box that you can do. And then obviously different groups have their own Alexa skills, right? So There are community companies out there that actually allow you to access community information through Alexa. So you could do that on the robot. One thing about Alexa traditionally is that it's a stationary device. It's in the room. It's in the living room. So now you have it on wheels. It can go up and down hallways. It can really be with you. So voice is big. Video. We are actively arranging video conferences with families and their loved ones in their rooms at communities, but we're also facilitating doctor visits. So we have the ability to have very strong video capabilities. You can also remotely control the robot. So there's an app that you can log into as a family member to see your loved one, but you can actually control it with the joystick. And we're seeing this in some communities where, unfortunately, there are active COVID cases, and trying to save on some PPE costs. The first introduction to the resident can actually be the nurse driving the TEMI into the room to take, the morning assessment and then go from there. So those are three areas that are actively used. And, we're also building, which I'm very excited about, a fully autonomous temperature capture experience. And, when you think about temperature, it's been around for so long that if you're going to get in the middle of it, it's a pretty simple thing, right? You just take the temperature and it reads it. So if you're going to try and get in the middle of it, you need to have something that adds value. So for us, the fact that TEMI is autonomous, the fact that the community can decide a safe place in their lobby or on a different side of the community to take a temperature, the TEMI recognizes when somebody comes up, you stand 3 feet apart, you set a threshold. If it's above a threshold, the community gets notified. There's a lot you can do to kind of help from there. And then lastly, we're also building different types of accessories for TEMI. Maybe you need a tray for food. Maybe you want to disinfect your community at night. There's really endless things. So we're just scratching the surface here. But just knowing that there's some practical use cases and then there's some more subjective engagement ones have been very powerful so far.
So, thinking that our audience are consumers, there's a lot to unpack there. There's, yes. It does a lot, but if you really break this down to the simplicity, it's really about leveraging technology to help as people age. They lose certain physical attributes as we age. We lose eyesight as we age. There's a lot of things that happen when we age. So you mentioned some important things, right? The ability to use someone's voice, to yes. listen to music, or find out what the activities are in the community that day, right? Yes. Or a schedule, or maybe even a phone message from a family member, or maybe a video conference, right? Being able to see each other. Brian, when you talk about video, what sits with me is the most, I think, biggest impact that will come out of COVID-19 is isolation. Not just seniors that live in senior living communities are still isolated as well, but at least they have people in the community that are there to check on them, make sure they're okay, make sure they have meals. I think the people living at home right now, my dad, being alone for 2.5 months, my brother said he definitely saw an impact on my father, so I think the ability to use technology or a robot is critical to be able to connect people to their families. So I think that's pretty cool. And then we're also seeing a jump in telemedicine in the senior living and in nursing home, nursing care, skilled nursing industry, maybe even at home health, where they're using technology to keep people safer, right? It's better if you don't have to go to a hospital or to a medical clinic during a pandemic. So that's really awesome too. So there's a lot there, but if our listeners just think about it as a way to do things that we haven't been able to do before in a safe way when the world has changed so much. So that's pretty cool. And then of course the temperature capture is cool too. So with the TEMIs in the senior living communities, what kind of reaction are you seeing? What kind of impact are you seeing? And how is the average community? Are they using like top 3 things? And what would those be?
Sure. So we have some communities that have one TEMI in the lobby.
Yeah.
And we have some. Cool. Yeah. And we have another community that has 24 stories and has one on every floor. Cool. So there's different ways to look at it. But, one thing that I mentioned that we've learned over our 13 years is just that what from an engagement standpoint, they can be very small things. This isn't we're not building a rocket here. We're just trying to make sure people can have a sense of positivity, connection, and have a good experience. And the thing about technology is that, you can use something for 5 seconds now and have a good experience. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute, engagement opportunity. So even if it's just putting Temmie in follow mode and having Temmie go down the hall and play music when most residents are in their rooms, provides just a change the day that you didn't have the day before. The ability to walk down the hall and be able to ask what's on the calendar, because right now the digital signs are off. There's some very simple things that are there. And then obviously it's a no-brainer right now at the front of a community to make sure that visitors coming in are safe.
I don't know, Brenda, if you have a Stop and Shop near you, but our Stop and Shop has a robot, and it goes around the store and it beeps and it knows when you're getting close to it. I've never interacted with it, but I've gotten just so used to that robot being in the Stop and Shop. And it's almost always, every time I go into Stop and Shop, within like 6 feet of me. It's like this weird thing, But the other thing I wanted to mention is, for our listeners and for you too, if you haven't seen it, there is a funny Saturday Night Live skit on Alexa with seniors.
Oh, it's hilarious.
If you haven't seen it, you've got to Google it, Brian.
It's Alexa Silver. Yeah,
it is the funniest thing ever. Anyway, so I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brenda, but I just thought, robots are in our daily lives more and more now, but our Stop and Shop's had one for about 3 years or 4 years, I think. What do you think's next on the horizon for technology? You mentioned a couple things. Temperature. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you think the future looks like in technology and senior living as a CTO?
Sure. I think that, it's interesting, right? I think that technology is in senior living is in some areas is at the forefront, and some other areas are afterthoughts to an extent. And one of the things that has come from COVID is that this concept of social communication and connection and engagement, it wasn't fully an afterthought, but it was extensions of other solutions. And now we're in a place where every community is thinking at the exact same time, which has never happened. How do I communicate with these people? How do I make sure that no matter who my resident is, no matter if they're 65 or 85 or at home, knowing that they all access technology different and have different comfort levels, how do I make sure that information gets to them? So I see two important things, and they're both very general. One is personalized in-room engagement. We think a lot about hotels and cruise ships and what you can do on TVs, and in your hotel when you're there, you can do anything you want. And while it's a different setting and you're in a hotel for a couple days and you're in a senior living community for much longer, we want to make sure that everything is possible, that you can stream content, that you can attend events, that you can order and have food delivered, that you can watch live stream events from your community. And it's just endless. We want you to know that a family member can take a picture on their smartphone and instantly have it show up on their TV, or take a video and have it instantly show up. So that there's a roadmap there around creating that in-room experience. And it's very important right now. And then I think secondly is, where does telehealth fit in? It's all around us already, but it's also, dare I say, it's very medical, right? So there needs to be a personalization side of it. So I see a combination of telehealth and social technology to really bridge the gap, because telehealth and telemedicine and medical systems, there's a lot of critical information there, but we're also on the social side collecting a lot of very important things. Your movement, how active are you? Are you sharing pictures? What are your steps? How many activities are you attending? Why are you RSVPing and not going? And all these things can intermingle and intertwine and connect to each other.
Well, and you bring up a really important point too with, and I saw it when we were setting up, when I was in the housing business, we were setting up telemedicine, areas, and the adoption of the technology was always the struggle. You had the technology that could do amazing things on the health front, but and that's what's great about connected living. It's more about how do we get that engagement with, the adoption of the technology and making it simpler for seniors to use it. so they can take advantage of all the incredible, health data that or share that. It just makes it easier for them.
You know what? While you're speaking, Brian, what I was thinking about is in all those pieces, almost everything you talked about, everything that Brenda touched upon, the isolation piece that I touched upon, it's really about wellness, right? Yeah. And healthier, aging in a healthier way, in a holistic way, whether you live in your home or you live in a senior living communities. I mean, senior living communities are very much focused on trying to create more engagement, trying to help you live a life more independently with sense of purpose and keeping you, with assistance, but helping you live a fuller life. Home care can do the same thing, right? Of course, by helping somebody live in their home. But I think that the biggest piece of this is how do we provide just a better quality of life and more wellness for aging adults as they age, no matter where they are, right? Whether it's some technology used in their home or technology used in a senior living community. So is there anything else that you would like to leave our listeners with, or anything that you'd like to share? And generally this is more of a personal thing that we see people share, but if there's anything you'd like to leave with our consumers that listen to this, please feel free to share.
I think for me, it's around isolation. I think that we've all been consumed by COVID-19. And I know for me personally, for a number of months, I was locked to the TV, reading news and stories and seeing numbers. And, there's no question, how horrible and impactful the aging population, has been impacted by the virus. But there's the hidden side of it too, which, in the industry we know is that if people have to, quarantine and be alone, or if events are canceled in communities, that there's isolation, right? And isolation is one of the largest contributing factors to poor health outcomes for seniors. So I think that that's been the part of this whole process for me that has been the most challenging, is that, it's not talked about, but understandably why, but just knowing that that's what's going on. And I think what I have to say is that just because you're isolated doesn't mean that you have to be, socially isolated in and of itself and distant, right? I think that's what we're trying to do. So figuring out ways, and this doesn't have to be connected living. This can just be through FaceTime with your family, or through Facebook, or through whatever way that you connect through mail. Just because you're home doesn't mean that you can't have social connection. But I think that's kind of sums up everything that we're trying to do. And to me has been one of the hardest things, is that the communities that we work in and cherish and build, their offering around engagement, I've had to rethink it. And it's our job as a company to make sure that even though folks are in their rooms, that they're not, and they're alone at times, that they're not isolated. So, yeah.
So every time I ask that question, every single podcast guest we've had, I always get chills, because it's just really what comes out. It's much larger, and it's really one of the reasons why we started this podcast series, is because sometimes there's a lot of focus on the pieces, yep, but not really the big collective, which is, we're all trying to make a difference, right? So how can people that are listening learn about connected living?
Yeah, I mean, I think the same way that you'll want to learn about anyone else. I think you can find us on any of the platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, just search for Connected Living. And it's we're one of many companies, but certainly in many of the industry publications right now and trade groups, a number of us are really being highlighted just for how we're approaching this. But yeah, we're searchable there.
Hey, Brian, this was really informative and great. It was so nice to have you on the show. So thanks for joining today.
Thanks, so Brian. It's been great.
You're welcome.
That's it for this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you for listening.